Hello and welcome to the Gaggle What We Challenge, and if necessary, destroy media narratives. I'm George Samueli. With me today, of course, is co-founder of the Gaggle, Peter Lavelle. So, Peter, we've talked quite a lot about the Alternative für Deutschland Party, which arouses this ferocious resistance on the part of the bien-pensant, all the media, and of course, anyone who's anyone in respectable circles in Europe, particularly anyone respectable in Germany. All the political parties have also absolutely not. We will never, never, never share power with the
And we're not
AfD.
in that circle, everyone.
Exactly. But now there's such disenchantment with the political establishment in Germany that there is a kind of a populist left party that's just been started by Sahra Wagenknecht, who was a prominent figure within the Die Linke, the left party. She is from East Germany herself. She was romantically involved with Oscar Lafontaine, who was a social democrat leader of the 1980s, and it's kind of an interesting to look at this party because it is a populist party, and the themes that it's addressing are themes that I guess the left used to address but don't any longer, and that's why I was thinking that it's what these terms like right and left increasingly mean very little. So people describe, say, Donald Trump as far right, even though Donald Trump has ditched pretty much the main ingredient of what used to be labeled far right within the Republican Party or the American right. I mean, he's abandoned the aggressive interventionist foreign policy. He abandoned free trade. He abandoned even commitment to free markets. He abandoned the whole obsession with cutting public spending. He abandoned the cutting taxes. He's not interested in that. He abandoned the entitlement reform that we got to cut pensions and everything. So how does that get to be far right?
And he's pretty soft on the culture stuff.
Exactly, he doesn't address that. But nonetheless, oh, this is the far right. And that's why if we look at the things that Sahra Wagenknecht says in her kind of program, how does that get to be called far left? So let's just quickly take a look. Where it says there that. So here it says, how do we create and maintain secure, well-paid jobs? And then it says, it should once again be normal to make good living from good work and for employees to have secure prospects. And then this is another reason why the industrial base of the German economy must be preserved, because industrial jobs pay above average wages in the majority of cases. Now, that's kind of an important thing, because the people who are now in power in Germany, particularly the Greens, they hate industrial jobs. They're in the business of deindustrializing Germany, contracting the German economy, and making it subordinate to the United States. They're happy to see, the industries move out of Germany and go elsewhere. They're happy to abandon fossil fuels. Oh, we don't need fossil fuels, even though fossil fuels basically power the industrial base. And so then she goes on. And then we're gained, in contrast, temporary work, fixed term contracts, low wages, and poor working conditions are particularly widespread in the service sectors. We will not accept this, and so on. So that's a kind of an economic policy. You could say it's the left, but it's also one that certainly the kind of Trumpian right says, yeah, we need to bring jobs back to the United States, jobs back to Germany.
Isn't this the kind of the staples of social democracy in the 20th
Right.
century?
Exactly. You need to produce. Basically, you're not going to have prosperity unless you produce something. You have to produce, manufacture, sell. That's there's no other way that you can make money. Then she says, what is our position on cancel culture and the pressure towards conformity? It undermines our democracy when the public flow of opinion narrows more and more, and an open exchange, even of controversial opinions, is less and less possible. Unfortunately, we are seeing the so-called cancel culture taking over more and more space, and the pressure on individuals to subordinate themselves to a certain opinion in order not to be singled out and defamed. But notice again, it's the so-called liberal left in Europe and the United States that wants to, crack down on speech as much as possible. So it used to be like the left, at least in the 1960s. Oh, we want free speech. We want basically, we want to end any kind of censorship. Now, the censorship is all coming from, EU bureaucrats and the people who are in charge in Germany.
Yeah, but George, this is one of the pillars of the Enlightenment.
Yes.
I mean, this is I talked about 20th century social democracy. This is like covering at least 300 years of liberalism.
Right. Exactly.
This is not radical, everyone.
No, that's right. But again,
this is bread and butter. Okay.
Right. So again, she's far left, but she's saying, hey, I don't want the government, whether it's the national government or the EU government, telling me, what is acceptable and not acceptable opinion. I mean, we talked about that guy. It was a Thierry Breton, that big shot EU commissioner who menacingly tells social media companies, you better, conform to our desires. You better get rid of hate speech, disinformation, or we're not going to allow you in our wonderful market. And that's kind of moderate. That's a centrist position. Well, he's a liberal. He's a centrist liberal. He wants to basically just crack down on any speech he disagrees with. And then she goes on. What do we mean by a new era of tolerance on the international level? It says we rely on understanding and reconciliation of interests between states on the basis of international law. It is not our business to lecture other peoples, nor to treat them as inferiors. This means that we recognize that countries can have legitimate interests, even if their government or form of rule do not conform to our ideas and values. History has shown that trade and economic exchange can help maintain peace. Binding fair treaties and respectful dealings in international politics can create the conditions for disarmament and common security. This is very radical. I mean, I don't know. This is
yeah. Well, this was the bread and butter of European politics in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Okay,
right. That's right. That's right. And although we shouldn't be telling others how they should live, even if basically we may not agree with their form of government, it really isn't our business to tell what this kind of government is that kind of government.
Particularly if you're German. I'm sorry, we have to say that here.
Right. And then she says, and then we have the strong, innovative economy, which says again the same kind of thing. And then she goes on, for a self-confident foreign policy. Our foreign policy sits in the tradition of German Chancellor Willy Brandt and Soviet President Mikhail Gorbachev, who opposed thinking and acting in the logic of the Cold War with a policy of détente, a reconciliation of interests, and international cooperation.
Well, you know that Willy Brandt and Mikhail Gorbachev, they were real radicals, George.
They were very radical.
Real radicals, okay.
But it's very interesting because, who has taken over the left in Germany? I mean, it's basically that's all the Cold War Russophobe figures, the kind who used to be very much prevalent in Germany in the 1960s, the people who were in the Christian Democrats, they were absolutely rabid, when we had the Hallstein Doctrine. So we're not going to have any diplomatic relations with any state that recognizes East Germany. These were very radical figures. So now these are the people who are in charge in Germany. I mean, the Greens are really a kind of a phony pseudo left. I don't know whether the CIA created the Greens. Maybe they did. But certainly everything they've done would suggest that they were a creation of the Americans, because what they do is precisely to diminish, deindustrialize, and destroy Germany, making it ever more dependent on the United States.
You could go through a thought process, and I think it would result in something that you just touched on here. If we take the entire green agenda, but don't call them Greens, to say there is a party in Germany that believes this. Which party do you think it is? No one's going to say green. Okay.
Right. Exactly. Okay. Exactly.
And I actually give more credence to what you said here. It's just a complete invention.
Yeah.
It more and more so, it seems so.
It seems so, precisely because we know the Americans were always very mistrustful towards the German Social Democrats from the beginning, from right at the start of the Cold War. They thought that the Social Democrats weren't on board for the Cold War. And then when Willy Brandt took over, they really got very anxious about that. So lo and behold, this party that they hated, the Social Democrats, was kind of essentially displaced by kind of a phony kind of pseudo left known as the Greens. And so we fundamentally reject the resolution of conflicts by military means. We oppose the fact that more and more resources flow into weapons and war equipment instead of education of our children, and so on. Nuclear armament is escalating conflicts with nuclear power, put the survival of humanity in risk and must be stopped. We seek a new era of détente and new treaties of disarmament and common security. The Bundeswehr has the mission to defend our country. It must be adequately equipped for this task. We reject the deployment of German soldiers in international wars, as well as their stationing on the Russian border or in the South China Sea. So you can see that here again, she's split with the left, the Die Linke, which kind of caved on the issue of Russia and Ukraine, and which is why she left the party. But now you have this party, and then you have the Alternative for Deutschland, both really hostile to this whole policy of waging proxy war, which could lead to a direct war with Russia. And between them, that's quite a big chunk of the German electorate. I mean, she's
but the whole point of this podcast is here. What is controversial about this? Exactly. As a matter of fact, it's very, first of all, it's common sense. Something, another thing that's vanishing is it's talking about sovereignty, which I know is a dirty word. Right. Okay, but they're talking about sovereignty. And, even though we're not doing a complete forensic review of the entire platform, but they all seem to fit together. Right. Well-paying industrial jobs. Right. Having a common sense foreign policy where Germany is a power for good in the world and not a follower for bad things in the world, meaning following what NATO says, what Washington says. This is eminently common sense, and it's good for Germany. And in this case, what's good for Germany is good for everybody else around it.
No, that's absolutely right. But interestingly, she has come under, as you would expect, a lot of attack within the mainstream German media, who are kind of likening her to Rosa Luxemburg in a kind of snide way, oh, well, something like soon she will probably develop a limp because Rosa Luxemburg had a limp. Oh, soon she will begin to see. Oh, well, she models her. She wears her hair just like Rosa Luxemburg wore her hair.
Okay, inside baseball on the gaggle here. Any female politician in Europe that is compared to Rosa Luxemburg, it's a compliment. Okay, they use it as a smear, but it's a compliment if you know history.
Yeah,
Rosa Luxemburg was a brilliant thinker. Right. Lenin could only envy her intellect. Sorry.
No, I think so. And she was a very clear writer, unlike Lenin. She could write without getting involved in all the deep hatreds that Lenin couldn't get past all the hatreds that he had. But you're right. But she's coming under that sort of snide and of course as long as you're on the right side, you can make all kinds of basically sexist comments. Hey, it's that's okay to do. Which I mean, you've done that. You do that in America. I mean, as long as you're going after Sarah Palin or one of the Republican women, you can make all sorts of derogatory comments about their appearance and so on. Anyway, a military alliance, NATO, whose leading power has invaded 5 countries in the past years in violation of international law and killed more than 1 million people in these wars, threatens others and leads to defensive reactions, and thus contributes to global instability. This is so obvious. I mean, we talk about this all the time here at the Gaggle, and yet it's clearly a shocker for any would-be political leader to say something so obvious. You're waging all these wars, God knows how many people are dead, and you're creating global instability because other countries feel threatened and take measures to counter that threat.
Well, and also, Germany's complicit in all of these things. It's
Yeah,
just, they're a major power in NATO and the European Union. And again, I don't want to tire everyone by invoking history, but German unification was predicated on not doing these things.
exactly. That's right. That's right. Instead of an instrument of power for geopolitical goals, we need a defensive alliance that respects the principles of the UN Charter, strives for disarmament instead of committing to rearmament, and in which members meet as equals. Europe needs a stable security architecture, which is in the longer term should also include Russia.
Okay, George, call the thought, please. Put the cuffs on her. Booker Dano. Okay. I
That's
mean,
right.
I know this is all heresy. It's all heresy.
Right.
But, if Europe wants to remain even in a modicum of being a force in the world, they need to follow this policy. Okay?
Exactly, exactly. And of course, it's so sensible to say, hey, we want stability in Europe, therefore we need good relations with our neighbor. I mean, Russia is a big neighbor of ours. And it used to be kind of the cardinal principle of German policy, which is we don't like the Soviet Union, we don't like communism, we don't like the Soviet system, but it makes sense for us to have good relations with our big neighbor in the East.
Bismarck was asked I'm sure I'm glad screw this up, but what's a good foreign policy? He said a good treaty with Russia.
Right. No, exactly. But again, this is very drastic, and you can see Thierry Breton is going to say she has no place being on any social media platform because there's disinformation. She's spreading Russian propaganda. These are talking points. These are Putin talking points. Our country deserves a self-confident policy that puts the well-being of its citizens at the center, is driven by a realization that U.S. interests are sometimes very different from our interests.
Right, Nord Stream pipelines.
That's right, and that's putting it very politely. I mean, it's like that's really as a politician. Well, sometimes different from our interests. Our goal is like when Nixon said, well, sometimes Israel and the United States don't see everything in exactly the same way. Our goal is an independent Europe of sovereign democracies in a multipolar world and not a new bloc confrontation in which Europe is ground down between the USA and increasingly self-confident new power bloc around China and Russia. So the point about her is that it's clear that there's a lot of unhappiness in Germany about the direction it's heading. This war is obviously damaging the German economy. We talked, many times about the farmers' protests in Germany. Now we have strikes. The rail workers are on strike in Germany. Again, Germany used to have a reputation. The trains run on time. Well, not anymore.
Germany had the reputation for decades of being a very boring but prosperous place. And you know what? Europe liked that.
Right.
Most of all, the Germans.
That's right. That's right. Exactly. And now, because of the exorbitant energy prices, there are people, basically looking at their thermostat. They're sitting in, icy cold apartments because, they don't want to, temper with the thermostat because they can't afford to pay the gas prices. That's Germany. Germans were very proud of their opulence. And the whole idea that people have to sit at home wrapped up in sweaters because they can't afford the heating, that's not really the image that Germans want to project to the world. So there is a lot of discontent. We talk whenever we talk about the alternative for Deutschland, pretty much now in every state of the East, they're the number one party. I think, you go, oh, we're far right, but they're the number one party in every state in the German East. And now we got a new party that could well challenge the Social Democrats and the Greens. There's some big change that's going on in Germany, and it's obviously been brought about by this absolutely crazy, demented foreign policy of theirs.
Yeah, but I think also it was this foreign policy is a result of a neoliberal mindset, and it affects everything. That's what it poisons everything, and something that you just touched on just for a minute or so is that then what is left, what is right, what is radical, what is populist? It's all getting convoluted right now, which of course the establishment doesn't, because they want to determine and define what is what. And if you look at this party platform, first of all, it's not far anything,
Right. Right.
except for maybe far away from policies that don't work. Okay. And that's the appeal. All right. But this, as George and I have pointed out, and Politico loves to do the most, because we seem to touch upon it a lot. Far right, they say, well, what does that mean? And plus, I know George didn't go through the entire platform here, but where's the racist language? Okay, where is the supremacist language? Where's the arrogance? It's not there. Very smooth and even very diplomatic and political when it was talking about how Germany actually, and I'll use those words, suffers from a foreign policy.
No, I think that's right. So basically, I mean, you have something far left. So she supports industry. We need more industry because our economy depends on on producing high quality manufactured goods. That's how we become prosperous. We need fossil fuels because that's really the basis of our economy, and we're not in any position to just simply transition away to the recyclable energy. Defense and military and foreign policy, and just make absolutely no, they're contrary to German interests. So this becomes, how is this far left? She's not even saying, well, we need real state ownership of the economy. We need the state to decide, where we allocate resources and so on.
Well, I mean, I was waiting for her to invoke Marx, Lenin.
Yeah, exactly. Well, basically, time for nationalization. We want 50% of the economy should be in the hands of the state. There's none of that. And again, it's like we're talking about this, how these terms don't really mean anything. Again, you look at the Trump. Oh, it's far right. And that's how you just get people to be thinking, and they're always lost in this category. Whoa, these are really extremists. And you think, well, those are all positions that used to be associated with the left. Non-interventionism, protecting our industries, bringing manufacturing industry back to the U.S., and then forgetting about public spending, and tax cuts and all the rest.
You could even go in further and say, I don't know if their word exists. I was going to say bipartisan, but multi-partisan. I mean, these are the pillars of social democracy after 1945, George. I mean, every country will tinker with it to one degree or another, but none of these ideas are unheard of. I mean, she hasn't invented a new political logos.
Right. That's right. And I think it's very important. We didn't touch on that too much, but the issue of free speech should be an absolutely major issue with what do you call it, the left, the right, or everyone should say, yeah, there is a major threat to free speech under Biden. I mean, they're obviously want to crack down on what people can say, opinions that will be available on media and so on.
The long-serving Chancellor Adenauer, he, in the end, and as part of his demise, he was kind of encouraging the state to start looking at his political opponents, like tapping phones and following people and checking their mail. And the Germans said, no, we already did that. It didn't work out so well for us. Okay. And Adenauer was a great chancellor during a very, very important time in history. But, when he started pushing the limits, said, no, we're not that kind of people. Okay. And they made it, they told him to knock it off, and he had to.
Yes, yeah. Well, you remember when Franz Josef Strauss, who was Adenauer's defense minister, ordered the arrest of the publisher of Der Spiegel, Augstein. Just a defense minister orders the arrest of a journalist. It wasn't a good look, and that was for Germany. I mean, Strauss went on to have quite a controversial career afterwards, but nonetheless, it was a bad reminder of unhappy times. George, arresting a journalist.
But looking at Alternative for Germany and looking at this new party here, the establishment, they can get their hair go on fire. Fine, that's what they do. Okay, but I see in both these movements, this will be controversial for people, but I think they want to continue to hold on what worked for decades.
Right. I agree. Yeah.
All right, everybody. We're going to keep an eye on this German politics, when it gets interesting, it's bad. I'm sorry. Too much of the historian in me. Okay, I like it when let's worry about making very fine pens and the fine cars, and make sure the trains run on time and everybody is happy. It's empirically proven. Okay,
Right.
let's go back to these days, and I think this is what this agenda wants to do. Is why don't we continue and grasp what has worked in the past, because what we see here is nothing fundamentally new. It's just common sense.
No,
All right, everybody. This is the Gaggle with Peter and George. We're on Local, so please go to thegaggle.locals.com. This is Wednesday. Buddy, what's going to happen tomorrow? You want to tell everybody? No, don't hem and haw on me. Okay, he's going to hem and haw. George has his second live stream of the week.
Live stream, 3 p.m. Eastern time. Come with comments, opinions, criticisms, suggestions. And then on the way out the door, think about little Buddy. Buddy's now just too appalled even to make an appearance. And he's making it clear, we need a new radical platform in which everything for the tip jar, nothing for anyone else. I mean, that's the platform.
It's pure Chihuahua power.
Yeah, exactly. And so in conformity with that, let's see if we can start shoving things into that tip jar. Maybe that'll satisfy him. We're very grateful for all of your help, friendship, and support. The more you're able to donate, the more of these videos we can make, the more we can improve the technology, and above all, you can get Buddy to calm down a little bit. He's very, very agitated. Remember, if you like the Gaggle, please like, share, and subscribe. See you soon. Bye.